So, officially, we're going to start our December 15th CC Atlantic gathering with our special guest, David. Welcome, David. Before we begin, there's going to be lots of chatting, I know, but before we begin, we just want to do our usual protection prayer. We're doing some amazing energy work this evening and always when we get together. So it's very important that we do some protection for ourselves. We go through our daily 3D world here, and we're really acceptable to a lot of infiltration throughout the day. So when we get together, it's important to when we want to receive these higher frequencies that we put ourselves into a good space, in a protective space, and we do so together. Also, when we do this energy work, we do raise our heads above the parapet a little bit and are then targeted. So we want to make sure that we put certain barriers and certain parameters in place, so our communication's protected, we're protected, our guests are protected, and we have a safe space where we can interact, we can share, and we can be vulnerable. So that's a little bit of a blurb of why we do this. So if there's anyone new here, if this is your first time, welcome. If this is not your usual CC Canada meeting, this is a very special one. But before we get started, we are just going to do this protection prayer. So please get comfortable. Make sure your feet are firmly planted on the ground, and give me one moment, and I'm going to start the video. Please close your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose, holding it for the count of 3. Now slowly exhale through your mouth for the count of 3. Time in through the nose. Allow all the experiences of the day, both good and not so good, to fall away from you with that breath. You are present here and now. Envision around yourself an orb of brilliant platinum energy, the brightest light you have ever seen. This platinum extends all around you and on all sides, fills all of your bodies, including your spiritual and emotional bodies. Not only is this energy around you, but it is also within you, even down to the atomic level and all spaces in between. Dear One Infinite Creator, Creator of all that is, please send us the highest vibrational forces to keep us
us safe, focused and positive in our intent in this time and space, and to protect us and all those we share this experience with. May all of our communications be protected and shielded from all negative interference through all directions of north, south, east, and west, earth, sky, and heart. We direct the four corners to be sealed in the eternal light of unity and oneness. We invite our Christ consciousness and oneness families to help guide us in all that is in the highest expression of our purpose this evening. I am the one infinite creator. I am sovereign. I am free. We are impenetrable and invincible. Blessings be upon us all. Om.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, David, for joining us today. We are sitting at 27. Great turnout tonight. Thank you, everyone, so much for showing up and offering your support. And hopefully we can have some great conversation. Just a couple of reminders before we get started. Please, please, please mute your mics. This session will be recorded and posted to platforms like MeWe Pro and David's YouTube channel. If you do not want to be known, please take this time now to turn off your cameras if you wish. Please forward any questions you have as we are talking with David first, and then we'll be doing a channeling and getting some questions in there as well. So please, whether it's for David or during the channeling, please put your questions into the chat. We have a few coordinators here with us this evening that will be keeping an eye on the chat. So we're going to do our very best to make sure that as many questions are asked as possible, because I know there is plenty going on and plenty to talk about. So for those of you that are new, welcome. This is Connecting Consciousness. This is a CC Atlantic Zoom gathering. We have a special guest, David Lotherington from Nova Scotia. We have a local with us this evening, very, very special. So I'm going to give a quick bio of David, and then we're going to get started. So David, at the age of 29, David began his awakening. His abilities began to come in waves as he developed, and the more he healed himself and others, the more skills and memories came forward to be remembered. David has had a full recall of past lives, his involvement in the Sacred Space program, and abilities that have developed over previous lives, giving him a plethora of resources to draw information and skills from and bringing them into this experience. He has remembered over 25 past lives and centuries worth of work in the SSP, along with memories of working with non-terrestrials and also of entering his current body as a soul. All of this has assisted David in helping those who are lost and are looking for a way back, or for those who are looking to enhance themselves. He is a proficient psychic surgeon, channeler, Akashic records reader, philosopher, and teacher, and hopes to share his knowledge with as many people as possible. David, welcome to our group tonight.
Thank you for having me, Phil. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. So, first of all, we had a preliminary question asked before we got started, and one that I think was fairly appropriate for here. Are you a Canadian native, and how long have you been living in Nova Scotia?
I am Canadian native. I was born at St. Rita's Hospital, Sydney, Nova Scotia. I've lived here most of my life, although I lived in Calgary and Toronto, and I was in China for a little bit as well. But for the most part, yeah, born and raised. So, although my accent's not very thick, some people say.
That is all right. That is all right. So you do some wonderful, wonderful healing, and in different kind of ways. Can you give us a rundown for our guests tonight on some of the healing services that you offer?
Sure. Well, when I'm working with someone, first you have to communicate with them, you get to understand them and kind of why they interact the way that they do in particular situations. Oftentimes, when people say, they send me an email and they'll tell me a million things about their business, and then they'll start to get into the important stuff about what they need to heal in their life. That really tells me a lot about somebody. It tells me what is important for them to talk about. And that is what they need to work on, most likely. And without even having to do any reading or anything, just what they say, the first thing that someone says to me says a lot about someone. Now, when I'm working with someone, I work visually through Zoom. It helps me to look at somebody, but I can connect with someone through a text message or through an email, and connect to their energy through that. And then it's essentially like opening up a tunnel. So whenever we send energy to other people through texts or through phone calls, that is our energy signature going to them. And if you're well trained in connecting with energies, you can expand that to create a straw. And you can go through that tunnel to see the person on the other side. So when I am working on someone through a Zoom session, I'll create a proxy of their field right next to me so I can work on them from a distance. And then I will usually scan them by checking out what percentage of each chakra is blocked up, which will tell me what's going on in your life, like we did briefly.
We did.
And then I'll remove those blockages that I see. And once that's like, if you imagine a jar of base cell, that's like taking the lid off the base cell jar. Now, once the lid's off, I can see how many implants they have. I can see, do they have entities? Because some people are in the super soldier program. I can see how much butter is in there. Is there breadcrumbs in there? Is there a mouse in the jar? Right? So a mouse would just be an entity. But things like that, entities, negative implants, they can cause disruptions in our fields and problems with our physical bodies, but also our energetic bodies. And entities can cause us, since each entity is attracted to a particular vibrational frequency, they're attracted to particular emotions, as all emotions are different frequencies. So if, say, it's sorrow that they're attracted to, an entity that's in your field and staying in your field, if it's attracted to sorrow, then it will manifest more sorrow in your life. And that is not something that you want in your field. So I do a lot of entity removal and stuff like that for people, which helps them to not only awaken their psychic abilities, but it also helps them in their everyday life with particular situations by changing their perspective on their life.
Excellent. That's wonderful. A follow-up question about that that was sent in. Um, so you already answered this. You removed some implants, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So the question is, what happens to the implants or maybe the black goo that you can remove from someone's body?
So for me, I've always used portals. People have, especially Reiki practitioners that I talk to that do energy healing. I'm sure there's a few of you guys here. They tend to just wash their hands after they finish the energy session, and they imagine the energy going down the sink. For me, I create a portal and I throw the energy in the portal, close it up, send it back to source to be transmuted. That's what I do with implants, entities, negative energy, black goo, whatever it may be.
Excellent. Excellent. Quick follow-up on that one. If an implant cannot be removed, can it be reprogrammed?
It can be reprogrammed, but implants are complex because they come in many, many different shapes and sizes. If you imagine a video game, and you're a video game character, take Mario, for example. He always looks the same for the most part. He has a red hat and blue overalls, and he can jump. That's his thing. He's a jumper. Now he shoots fireballs and all that, but that's what his program says he does. Mario doesn't necessarily fly the speed of Superman. He jumps 1, 2, 3 times, and then he can make a really big jump. So implants are like programs that are inserted into your field. And if that implant is designed to do a particular function, then it will perform that function. If you remove an implant impartially, then it can be like adding a program that's not fully complete to your system, which you do not want, because it will make a glitchy system. So perhaps I'm losing track of the question. Can you repeat it really quickly?
Yeah, it was if the implant, if we can't remove it, can it be reprogrammed?
If you're adept in creating psychic constructs, yes. That is a short answer to that. But if you're not sure, like many implants are created by our secret government programs, by guys that I've seen sitting in these big fancy chairs to amplify their psychic abilities. They create the construct, which is designed for the individual, matched to their frequency, and then placed into their field to cause any level of disruption.
Okay, interesting. We have Karen in the chat has added a couple interesting comments. She wants to know about, some healing some deep wounds, and, saying things like she's feeling like she has an entity or an implant in her field, and almost feeling it says high polar. I think she means bipolar at times when it comes on or tries to take over. Is that something that's consistent with maybe a lot of people suffering from mental health? Is there like almost a misdiagnosis where we have blockages and implants happening, and it's manifesting as depression, bipolar, or any other of the mental health disorders?
So I always say that there are psychic people, there's crazy people, and then there's psychic crazy people. But when I say crazy, I really mean there is dysfunctions that we do have in the brain that are not energetic. They can be genetic issues that are happening within the system. But I have been looking into psychopaths and different types of conditions that people have in mental health, and trying to make the correlations between not psychic abilities, but entity attachment or level of consciousness in these individuals, and how they react in everyday life. So to answer the question, kind of yes. When, like I said earlier, entities can attract certain things into our life. If we have a really strong entity, entities take a long time to become strong. They often happen to us early in life, within the first 7 years of our life, and they build strength over time as they're fed that particular frequency that they feed off of. When that happens, they become stronger and they can do more. So I created a scale, an entity scale actually, to help people understand what they do a little bit better. And most people, when they have entities, I don't call entities demons. That's not interchangeable, but an entity can become a demon if it becomes powerful enough. So entities, there's so many different types, but most of them don't have consciousness. Most of them are just ambient energies that exist in our environment. And just like a cockroach or a rat, if you create the right environment, they'll find a place, a home in that space.
I'm sorry, David. Can we just unpack that just a little bit? Entities without a consciousness.
Okay, entities without a consciousness. So in your everyday life, there are beings all around us all the time, positive and negative. Most of them don't affect us, but when we match our vibration to theirs, we become susceptible to them. So take yourself, Philip. If you're having an argument with your loved one, that will cause your vibration to drop. Now, when your vibration drops, you become susceptible to lower vibrational beings. Right? Now, if you go about your day, you work out, you play some music, or you find a way to relax yourself, you can bring your vibration up rather quickly. But if you're holding on to that traumatic moment that you just experienced for a period of time, it can become a type of depression that is in your life, like maybe a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. Now, when that happens, you are at a low vibrational level for a period of time. And if you are at a certain level, then a being of that level will try to enter your field. So that goes the same if you're in a really great place in your life. There's positive entities too. So if you attract that entity and it comes into your field, it can't actually stay if you raise your vibration up quickly. But if you don't raise your vibration up, it can settle in your field and create what I call the black nest. And the black nest is something like, it's like a home inside of your aura that the being can stay in and not have to worry about your vibration going back up and kicking it out. So that's a little bit on entities without consciousness. They're just ambient things that drift around, and when they find the right home, they stay.
Okay, very interesting. Going back, we have a couple questions. We have one from Susan, back to the implants. David, is everyone implanted? And if so, does this happen at birth, or what precipitates the action of implantation?
Okay, that's a great question. Not everybody has implants. People that are doing psychic work to help people, energy healers, people that remove entities, things like that, they're more often than not to have 1 or 2 or 3 implants. It depends on the person. It depends on how big your mission is. It depends on many factors. So there are several groups that work outside of time, and they'll go 50 years in the future. They'll see what beings are relevant, who's going to make change and ripples in the world. And there's good groups like this, and there's bad groups like this. So if I'm going to be like a world famous channeler in 50 years and change the way people look at the world, then they're going to be like, we're not going to let that happen. And then they'd go back and insert an implant to prevent me from perhaps accessing courage, or maybe they'll give me this terrible stage fright, or perhaps they'll shut off my abilities. So implants could do a plethora of things, and they're not limited to that. Now, we don't get them when we're young. We can get them anytime throughout our life. Sometimes when you remove an implant, it comes back, or a new one is put in its place. But once you remove an implant, it's gone forever. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, I think so. I think you did a pretty good job there. Okay, switching. Actually, we're gonna maybe jump one question just because it's kind of on the similar theme here. From Jill. Jill's asking, are you able to remove any nanobots, chips, or AI from someone who maybe has had or is going to be having the COVID vaccine?
Chips or AI? If it's physical, then no, I can't. But so there's different types of, there's nano, femto, pico. All of these are different sizes and scales of tech. Black goo I've removed, and I've removed hundreds and hundreds of implants and entities from people. But as far as chips go that are physical, I can't do that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Okay, switching gears. We have a question comment from Louise. I think she's curious if you do or are doing any remote viewing.
Remote viewing is not really my thing. I do it from time to time, but it's not my specialty. There's a lot of people that are way better than me at it, so I would definitely recommend going to someone else for that.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. We have a quick question from Jocelyn. She wants to know if you can speak to thought forms.
To thought forms. Well, a thought form could be an entity, a non-conscious entity. Yes, you can speak to any being. They may or may not be listening. For example, if you speak to Archangel Michael, he always hears you, no matter what. Does he answer you back? Probably. But are you able to pick up on what he's sending back? That's the question. So you want to find out what your clair abilities are. Where are your strengths as far as psychic abilities go? Are you better at clairvoyance and you get visualizations when you receive energy from alternate beings? Are you clairaudient? That means you might hear songs, you might hear tones, or perhaps different voices when you receive energy. Maybe you're clairaudient, which means clear smell. And you can smell, you get the sense of smell. Maybe you smell roses once in a while, and that triggers your memory to think of your grandmother. That's the psychic ability. So it depends how you interpret energy, depends on where your abilities will go in the future, because everyone has their own strength.
That's fantastic. It's funny you bring some of those up. I've been looking into some of those recently. Is there, we talk about, maybe you're this or maybe you're that. Can we? There has to be situations where people have multiple of these abilities.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's fantastic. Excellent. Excellent.
Yes, that's definitely the case. And some people have all of them.
Is there, correct, help me out here. Is there a term for that? Is there, what would be the term for someone that is maybe 3 out of the 4 or all of them? Like what would be the thing if you can do all of the things?
Well, then you're a very talented psychic. I don't have all of them. I can't remember I believe it's clair tactile, but it's like essentially when you touch an object, you might see everything that object has been through. That's one of the abilities that I don't really possess. And my clairaudience is really weak, but the other ones are pretty decent. And, sometimes you have one that you rely on more than another, so that will strengthen more than the others. And you don't need to have all the abilities. You only need a few of them, really.
It's kind of like a right and left hand where, they're both working. One might work better than the other.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we got some questions lined up here. People are throwing them in. So I guess we're gonna go back a little bit here. We have one from Karen again. How can you tell if someone has an entity or attachment as opposed to a psychological challenge?
Psychological challenge is a bit of a vague term because a psychological challenge could be caused by an entity. Now, how do I'll answer the first part of the question. How do I tell if someone has an entity? As an empath, that just means that I feel other people's emotions as my own. That also means that I can feel the energy of objects, people, things, whatever it might be, and non-terrestrials even. So when I connect to someone's field, I can see it clairvoyantly, what's happening in their field, and I can feel pain in their body, in my body, because I feel pain in my body where they have pain a lot of times. That can be really uncomfortable for me sometimes. So I'm like, by the way, there's something going on with your liver or whatever. As far as an entity goes, entities, they like to hide. They can hide in a really blocked up chakra, and the more blocked it is, the better they can go undiscovered.
Or the better the nest is, like you're saying, maybe the more rooted in they get.
So I have seen, yes, to answer that question. I have seen entities, and I've cleared off a chakra completely, and then as I was looking at someone's field, I could see this like cloudy mist forming around it. I said, what the heck is that? So I removed that out of the field, and then I started to see it popping up again. I knew I removed it. So I moved it out of the way quickly and looked inside, and I seen that an entity was like a crab digging into the sand deeper and deeper, trying to hide from me, who was going to remove it. So entities are tricky sometimes.
I would say so. They are pretty tricky and slippery and slimy, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna try and get caught up with some questions here. We're gonna move to a little bit of a dream question, something that we had earlier before we started chatting today. Shelly is having some dream issues. So she recently had a dream. Perhaps it wasn't a dream. I was lying down in bed and I could feel myself being held down. At this point, I couldn't move. I felt a band being placed around my head. What would that be? I am now totally disconnected, if that makes any sense, she says.
So that could be a couple different things. It could be an entity. A lot of times entities affect us through our dream state. So dreams are in quantum, and then we have our 3D lives, right? But they can manipulate the fields while we're asleep. So if an entity is at a low vibration and you're doing really well, they can get into your dream and cause the dream to go south, which makes you afraid or frustrated or mad or whatever that feeling is. And then when you're mad, your vibration drops. When the vibration gets to the same vibration as the entity, then they can physically affect you. So you might wake up in the middle of the night and try to move, and you can't because there's something sitting on your chest, or you have sleep paralysis. This is an entity likely leaning over you. You can't scream, you can't do anything. I know it's kind of scary, so sorry guys. But sometimes this stuff happens to people in real life. In your particular situation, it sounds like you might have experienced yourself receiving an implant. So although you can't, or you may not be able to see the beings because they might be in fourth density, it doesn't mean that they can't see you. So you might have picked up on some component of them doing something to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that one. Catherine wants to jump in here.
No, sorry, I was just trying to keep track of the list of questions. Susan has had a question pending for a bit. Then we have Vicky, who is on the list, and then Louise, and then Karen.
Awesome. What do you? What was Susan's question? I didn't.
It's back here. Let me see here.
Was it that the everyone's implanted? at birth.
Yes.
Yeah, we got that one.
Cover that one?
Yeah, we got that one.
Okay.
So next up, you are right, is Vicky. And this one I'm kind of curious about because I loved listening to some of these. Are you planning on doing any more channelings? Example are the ones that are on your site for like Tompkins, Wolf, Von Braun, those characters.
For mediumship, you mean? So I was asked by messages of a star traveler. Her name is Elena. She wanted me to do a couple channelings for dead Nazi Area 51 scientists. And I had not done mediumship before that point. And so we gave it a go. It ended up working. I was like, okay, this is cool. And then James Rink, he has a program on YouTube called Super Soldier Talk. He wanted to have me on his program. And then I channeled another being. And Elena asked me again. And I was starting to realize that I don't really want to be that guy that is known to be channeling these Nazi scientists from whatever group. So I pumped the brakes on that because it's not really where my passion is. I really love working with non-terrestrials and energy healing and awakening people's psychic abilities and things like that. So that's where I like to be.
That's perfect. That's an excellent answer to that question. Thank you. All right. So Louise is next up, and we have, can you see the energies given off by a person's chakras?
By the person's chakras?
Yes.
Well, yes. I don't see it coming out of the chakra, but I do see the color, the spin rate. I can see blockages within the chakra, and I can see a percentage that's associated with that chakra, which is a blockage, and entities and things that are around and inside the chakras. Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. Karen just has a little quick blurb that's saying that this has been very helpful, and she's really resonating with this so far. Her intuition really feels that she has an entity. So hopefully, maybe you two can connect outside of this, and you guys can do some work. Next up, we have Vicky. Do the DNA infusions have any impact on the Akashic records?
No. The Akashic records is all the information of everything that is meant to be known. And there's the Book of Shadows, that's everything that's not meant to be known. So there's different types of records that people can tap into. I tap into the Akashic records, and that's where you go to ask questions about, was I a super soldier? What kind of lives did I have in my past life, future life, blah, 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 things of that nature.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, a couple quick ones. Looks like about entities. Karen wants to know, can we learn how to remove entities ourselves?
You can learn. I was guided by my team on how to do it. So I'm just trying to think of when I removed my first entity ever. I think I was actually a Reiki master at the time. And it is possible. You just have to have one ear clear, strong enough that you can perceive energy. And you'll know the feeling of what doesn't feel right, what doesn't belong. Once you can identify that, then you can remove it. But a bigger warning with entity removal is, because I've worked on Reiki masters before, that they don't work very cautiously with entities. And in order to heal someone, they take the entity from them and they put it on themselves, and then they transmute it. Don't do that, because the entity doesn't go to the next step for whatever reason. Just take the entity out, remove it, put it in a portal, send it wherever you have to send it, and do it directly. I have a couple tools that I can use to remove entities that don't drain my energy when I pull them out. So when I first started removing entities, I would stick my hand into someone's field, and I would grab the entity, pull it out, and then throw it in a portal. But every time I did that, my arm would go numb, like up to my forearm here.
Wow.
And that happened every single time. So eventually, after removing entities for 2 months, my team gave me something called the Sword of L, and I just used that to stab them, remove them, and chuck them. So I don't have to deal with that.
I'm not gonna lie, that sounds pretty amazing. The sort of L, and that visualization that you just did there, that was great. I could, but that's that's what we are. We're spiritual warriors here, and we do battle, and we need the proper tools, we need the proper weapons, and the proper protection. Side question: what sorts of protection practices would someone use when we're dealing with entity removal and things of this nature?
Okay, so one thing I wanted to address that I didn't address before when we were talking about entities is some entities you're probably not ready to remove. Some of them are too strong for where you're at right now, and that's happened to me as well. There's some beings, without getting into the entity scale, that are over 6 on the scale, that are almost demons, but not quite. They can talk to you telepathically. Yeah.
Just some bad stuff there. Just some bad stuff.
They can do some nasty stuff, and they can possess you as well, especially if you're a channel. So you have to be careful and mindful. So always ask your team or ask your pendulum, am I able to remove this thing, firstly? And then maybe we can go from some guidance on how to do that later.
That's amazing. Thank you. Okay, so the questions keep coming. We have another one from Susan. Can we consider entities comparable to a biofilm as a possible source? Is there a connection?
I've never heard of them related in that way as a biofilm, because they're etheric, they're in the postplasmic layer. Now, so biofilm, I assume, would be in the 3rd density, where we are. So I can't say yes to that, but I don't know. I don't have all the answers.
That is fair. And that is why we're here. We don't have all the answers, so we're here to gather and ask questions, bounce ideas off each other, and hopefully we can come up with some sort of an answer of what resonates, right? So thank you for that. We definitely don't need all the answers. It's important to have some mystery, isn't there? Okay, so we have this done. Next up is Raymond. Hello, Raymond. What would cause one to lose the ability to freely astral project consciously and become trapped in dreams only?
So you're astral projecting and you're getting caught in your dreams? I can see you, so not really. Okay, so what can cause you to stop doing astral travel? If you get scared while you're astral traveling and you are so scared that you close your 3rd eye, that can happen. You can also receive an implant that can block some of your psychic abilities. You could experience something in your life that closes your 3rd eye chakra. There's several things that can happen, unfortunately, in that realm. Not that many, but there are a few.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Next up from Nina, how can we clear our chakras on our own?
Well, I have met many people that have done guided meditations to remove blockages from their chakras, and I have seen people with some success with that. But I've never seen anyone that had fully clear chakras from doing that. So maybe they'd have less than average, but they won't have all the chakras cleared. So I would recommend you might be able to do some guided meditation and regarding each specific chakra. So spend time on your root chakra first, then your sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, 3rd eye, and crown chakra, and do one video for each of these to clear them. That's what I'd start with.
That's perfect. That's a pretty good answer to that, I think. Louise has an interesting question. Back to protection. Can you install protection before going to sleep and be secure?
Yes, you can, yeah. So for those who may have entity attachments, or for those who are afraid around nighttime, it's at nighttime where our brains are producing, or our glands are producing melatonin, and that is what causes our psychic abilities to ramp up. So if it's dark, your psychic abilities will be more active. Now, for those who wake up with sleep paralysis, some of you are out there, I'm sure. I was like that a couple years ago, and it happens on rare occasion. You can say, I am the light, and just know that that's true. And what that does is it raises your vibration up very high, and it works instantly. So when an entity, like we mentioned before, they want your vibration to be the same level as theirs so they can influence you. But once you say this, your vibration goes here and they're still here. So you literally become invisible to them. And that's the same way that Sasquatch or Bigfoot or whatever disappears. They say, oh, it just vanishes. But it's just oscillating its vibrational frequency to a different dimensional layer.
Fascinating. That's absolutely spectacular. I love that. Okay, a couple more, and I think we might be close to getting ready to go on to the next part. So Vicky's kind of curious. She wants to know, do you do some of your healing methods with a pendulum?
I used to use a pendulum all the time. Actually, I started off using the pendulum. I would get, well, with a pendulum, you want to find out your yes, you find out your no, you find out your I'm not meant to know. You can use anything from a set of keys to a necklace to anything that has a weight at the bottom to be a pendulum, actually. It doesn't have to be a pendulum. You can put, excuse me, I'm getting a bit dry. One second. You can put the pendulum over your chakra and ask your team or angels to help you with healing that particular chakra. So if you take the pendulum, you put it over your root chakra, and you say, spin whatever direction until you start healing. And then when you start, go in the opposite direction. And when you're done, go in the other direction again, for example. So they will let you know when they're finished working on that particular chakra. That's
excellent. Excellent. That's great. Okay. And I think maybe lastly, unless there's nothing else, do you sense or know any connection of entities, or guess maybe anything else regarding to the vaccinations that are planning on being rolled out?
This is a really big topic. A lot of people are asking this question. Everyone in the world wants to know, should I get a vaccination? But if you are curious about that, look up the ingredients in the vaccination. And if you see some term MR15, look that up. I did some of that today, and that was some genetic material that was received from, what was it, like a 12-week-old deceased boy fetus. That was actually one of the ingredients in the vaccine. So I was like, okay, what the hell? As far as entities and the injections go, a lot of people are worried about nano components and stuff like that being in the vaccinations. Unless you are someone who is high up in politics and government, or you have some very valuable information, I'm not referring to astrally, but more physically, then I wouldn't really worry about the nano component of that, because they're very expensive. And they're not going to spend bajillion dollars tracking everybody when most people don't do anything with their lives, really. So I wouldn't worry about that. As far as entities go, I don't think there's any entity associated with the vaccine personally. But the fear of the vaccination, the shame of having received it, or the actual physiological problems that it may cause after you receive it, that the shame will cause you to drop your vibration, and then you'll be susceptible to entities.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Before we move on, there was some curious questions